Good afternoon, everyone. As usual, I'll be giving just a minute to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. Even as you guys keep coming in, just want to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you guys for keeping it a day with us. How have you guys been? How is the weather treating each and every one of you? Hope things are moving on smoothly. Like I said, I will be giving just 1 minute. I think I will just take it off from here, even as more people keep joining us. Good afternoon once again, and welcome. For those of you guys that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gagba Esahaya, and I'm one of the training coordinators for the Temple Small Business Development Center. At the Temple Small Business Development Centers help small business start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Centers, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. We're here this afternoon for a webinar on Master Your Social Media with Time-Saving Tools and Techniques. A copy of the PowerPoint and the link to the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your questions on the Q&A or the chat box. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome my wonderful speaker, even as she takes over the floor for the presentation. Well, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I've presented many times for Temple SBDC, and it's always a pleasure. And for those of you who are rejoining us from before, welcome again. I'm excited to meet new people too. And by the way, you're welcome to ask me questions throughout the presentation. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So please do that. And I will check, and Garba will also check for me too, just in case I start, getting all overly excited with what I'm presenting. He'll interrupt me with any questions you have as well. Okay, so here's what we're going to be covering. First of all, how to choose the best social media sites for your business, and then ignore the rest because you shouldn't have to be on all social media sites. Also, how to easily find content that it really resonates with your audience, and the key word here being easily. And then also how there are lots of third-party tools out there that'll save you some time, and I'm going to share some key ones that have been huge game changers for me that I hope will be for you too. And then also, I also want to talk about some habits and techniques that will really help you save time with your social media, but get a lot more out of it. So we're going to be covering a lot. This is a topic I'm extremely passionate about because life is short, and even though social media is important, we shouldn't spend more time than we need to on it. We have other things we need to do in our business and our personal lives. So however we can get more out of our social media in less time, that's what we're going to be doing. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is making sure we pick the right platforms. I'm going to spend a little bit more time here than you might imagine because it is really, really important. But if you're feeling that because the social media platform exists, you should be on it, I would encourage you to not have that thinking whatsoever. It's better to be on, like I say here, like it's better to be on 2 or 3 platforms well than 5 or 6 poorly, but maybe even just 1 or 2 that you do really, really well. When I say platforms, I mean social media sites. So let me to sum things up. Okay. The easiest ones to do, and I'm not saying these are the ones you have to do, but just from a time management standpoint, Facebook and LinkedIn are the easiest in terms of how much time you would need to put in to get results if you just work the system well. Okay. Moderate is Instagram. There's a little bit more work that's involved with engaging with the community and making sure you use the right hashtags. And the ones that literally will just, I'm not saying not to do them, but I'm saying like you should really have a very good reason and extremely magnificent strategy and tons of resources. If you're going to be doing TikTok, Twitter, or Pitter, that's not a site, TikTok, Twitter, or Pinterest. So let's just quickly dive into these. And so this will help you narrow things down. Okay, so Facebook is incredibly popular, but it's also very crowded. So you may have noticed when you put a post out there through your business page, it's unless you're boosting a post or using ads manager. In other words, unless you're putting money towards your content, it's a little harder for people to see your content, and that is true. It's definitely more of a pay to play kind of platform. The good news with it is that it is relatively inexpensive compared to other marketing venues out there in terms of if you want to put money towards something and getting something out of the ads. Their analytics are actually fantastic, and if you're going to be posting on Facebook about 3 times a week is fine. I'm going to, and by the way, if 3 times a week sounds overwhelming to you, I'm going to be giving you a lot of tips and techniques to make 3 times a week seem like, make it really, really easy. Okay. But still make your social media very good. Okay. So LinkedIn, it's so funny because LinkedIn is such an underdog. There's so many people who are like, LinkedIn is just for people searching for a job. And I get it because that's kind of how it started, but it's really become an incredible networking and business development tool. There are, it's growing like crazy. Right now we're at 800 plus million users. And I will tell you that it is of the traditional social media platforms, it is the #1 tool that I'm using. I find I get the best results with it. If I put a post out there, I don't have to pay for a lot of people to see it. I've been making really good connections with it. I've gotten literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of business from LinkedIn without even trying to sell, just from putting content out there and engaging. So I know it works firsthand. And we have a question in chat. LinkedIn is where you reach the decision makers. Yes, Jerry, that is exactly right. And I just realized too that there is a link I want to share with you guys. Bear with you. I'm going to actually, you're going to see my screen here, but there is actually a link I want to share with you. It's an incredible resource that you're really going to like. Sorry about this. I typically have this handy. Okay, I'm going to put this in chat for you. Okay, and let me go ahead and go back to play from current slide and host and panelists to everyone. Okay, so what I just shared is the link to my YouTube channel. That's also been a great business development tool for me too, but it's not technically social media. The reason I'm sharing it with you is because I have 100 plus tutorial videos in there, mostly on LinkedIn and Facebook, some on like social media in general or content creation tools you might like, and things like that. Some things on Instagram too. I despise Twitter, so I'm not putting anything on there. So on Twitter, but anyway, it's a free resource. Tons of videos. You choose a subject you like, just like YouTube. Just it's free, and I try to make it engaging. So please feel free to take advantage of that. Anyway, wanted to share that. Another thing that is super good about LinkedIn is that there is a publishing feature where you can actually share your blog articles or videos. It's almost like your blog section, and they call it the LinkedIn newsletter. And that has been a game changer. And that's a relatively new feature that, wow, I have a whole video about it, but anyway, on YouTube, but just please check it out and please consider it. And posting about 3 times a week is fine also on LinkedIn too. I post about every other day, and it's totally fine. Okay, Instagram. Instagram is fantastic if you have a visual brand. Let's see what we have here. Tracy Barry says, I have also sold tons of merchandise via LinkedIn after being repeatedly told it is meant for B2C. Thank you, Tracy. Exactly. It's like people, and it's Diane says, is there a fee for it? There are premium versions of LinkedIn. I will tell you that unless you are, how do I put this? Like in major like hunt mode with like getting leads and are willing to spend tons of time with it, it's not worth it. I've done everything organically, except for 1 month, I did a trial of premium business. But that's over the last 10 years, and everything else has been organic. And yes, people like to pigeonhole LinkedIn. Okay, thank you. All right. So, okay, so Instagram, it does put you ahead of the curve, kind of. I mean, not really anymore, but I will tell you there are a lot of businesses that are not that still aren't really using Instagram. So there's you still may be ahead of your competitors if you're not on LinkedIn, not really use, or if you're on LinkedIn and they're not quite yet. It does take a little extra time with hashtags and engagement. Posting at least daily is recommended, and because of like adding the hashtags, and then also you really do need to engage more. It's and also it's some people say photos are going away on Instagram. They're not, but Instagram does favor more and more video, which can be a little bit of a time investment. So just kind of keep that in mind. And let's see, we have another question, and Diane says, "Thank you. You're welcome." Okay, so TikTok, I mean, we've all heard of it. It is growing like wildfire. It is very good for reaching a younger audience, although I was looking at stats recently and I'm surprised at how there are, it definitely leans younger, but there are quote unquote older. When I say older, I fall into that category. There are older people who are on it as well. But okay, first of all, if your brand is quirky and humorous, okay, then there could be a good fit here. But you need to be posting about 1 to 4 TikToks. I mean, in other words, humorous, very well thought videos like every single day. And you might have to do this for quite a while, months, before you see a dent. If you don't have those resources, give yourself some slack and use one of the other platforms. I'm not there. When I'm consulting with clients, like there have been like out of like, gosh, hundreds I've talked to, there are like a very small handful that I felt like could really use TikTok. They had the resources, they had the personality, they were really comfortable with video, they could just churn out humor and quirkiness and all that. They could do that. But it's just not for everyone. And even though my brand has some humor, I can't even fathom TikTok right now either myself. And I do video like all the time, but I do it in a different way. And Twitter, and it's so funny. Twitter is just like stagnant. It's been at like between 300 to 400 million users forever. It's not growing. Okay. It is really good if you're in a niche or you have some thought leadership going on. Like there are people who are on Twitter and they're reading to see what's going on. So you could be one of those people to share what's going on. People do tend to retweet a lot. That is really helpful. The press tends to be on Twitter because they want to see, sometimes the press gets their news on Twitter. And uses that as the basis, so you could be found more in the press with Twitter, but I am not joking. And the last bullet point, I am not making this up. The recommended amount of time, the recommended amount of effort is 15 tweets a day. Unless you have that, just don't worry about Twitter. Okay. And Pinterest, if you're geared more towards a female audience, slightly older audience, more of a visual brand, is really good. A minimum of 3 pins per day is recommended, and that's why that can be a little tough as well. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get a drink of water here. And okay, so hopefully you can start feeling good about or getting some ideas about like platforms you definitely want to be on, or you feel justified on the platforms you are on, and maybe some that you've been thinking about, you can kind of let go. And that will save you time. Okay, so the other thing about social media, and really anything you do in business, is it doesn't all have to be spontaneous. There's so much you can plan in advance that in the end is going to save you time. So what I have here, and a few of you have seen, who have seen my previous webinars may have seen this before, and I hope it's a good refresher. And for others of you, I think you're really going to like this. This is an example. This is the top half of a page. Imagine a full Microsoft Word document, and I'm just showing the top half of it. Okay. And typically the numbers go from 1 down to 30 for the days of the month. Okay. And I'm just showing you 1 through 16. And what we have here is you're just planning out on like as a default for all the months moving forward, what general topic you're going to cover on that particular day of the month. Okay, so for example, on the 1st and the 9th, you'll do a self promo, and I'll explain what that means. If you were, by the way, this is if you were like a realtor. Obviously, if you, I don't know, sell insurance, you're not going to use these, or you, I don't know, you sell books, or you are a life coach, you're not going to use these topics. Okay. But I want to show you the concept of how the workflow goes. Okay. So if you're a realtor, then maybe on the 4th of the month, and also just a second, and then also the 16th of the month, you have a post about home buying or selling strategies. And that could be either you providing the content, maybe you do a short video, or you have a little quick tip and an image, or maybe you find something really cool on Zillow.com, one of their articles, and you share that article, say, hey, check out this article, and which has 5 tips on the top, the 5 most important rooms you should renovate before trying to sell your home, or something like that, or tips for choosing a realtor, whatever it is. Okay, so it doesn't always have to come from you. As a matter of fact, it adds more variety when once in a while you just share a link to someone else's work, and they're still getting full credit because you're sharing their link. It goes to their site, and it makes your life a whole lot easier. Okay, so, but you can see again with this evergreen kind, and when I say evergreen, I just mean like it's from month to month kind of thing. The 6th of the month, you'll do something on home improvement tips, share some real estate statistics on the 11th, on the 14th, mortgage news or tips, and you can imagine the rest of the month goes there. I do see there's something there in chat. I'll get there in just a second. I just want to finish my thought. Now, oh, sorry. So you saw that on the 1st and the 9th of the month, there were self promos. And this is what we mean by self promo. This would be like things where you do share something a little bit more about yourself. So for example, it could be, new listings or client testimonials, or you have an open house, or meet our team if you're part of a real estate team, that type of thing. So you can just have a ready list of, okay, when it comes to self promo day, what do I want to share? So in everyone's, and so I really recommend taking about a half hour of your time to create this document. It could be in Microsoft Word, it could be on a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. The key is having a list and having a plan so that you never lean too heavily on one subject, and you're not overly self-promotional or not self-promotional enough, and you don't do too many of one topic and not enough of another. You can, and there will be certain topics that are part of your brand that you want to make sure you maybe repeat throughout the month. And maybe there's some topics you only want to do once a month. And this will help you share it. The reason I like doing things once out of a monthly calendar rather than a weekly calendar, if you do a weekly calendar, first of all, you're limited to 7 topics if you were to do 7 days a week. But let's say you post Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Okay. You've just limited yourself to only 3 different types of topics, and your pattern is really obvious to the outsider, and it starts looking forced. Whereas if you do something like this, a monthly plan, there's more intricacy, but there's still a plan there, but the pattern is so not obvious. No one's going to say, I just noticed on the 11th of every month that you do something about real estate statistics. No one's going to notice that. If they do notice it, you have bigger problems. So, okay, let's see what we have in chat. Okay. Is Twitch considered social media? I will tell you, I don't know enough about Twitch. I know when I think of Twitch, I think of like streaming for gaming. There probably is a lot more to it, but it's not something I specialize. I wouldn't. Twitch is, if here's the definition for social media. Social media is where people are following you and you're following them and you're interacting with each other. Okay, that's social media. So that's why I don't even consider YouTube social media, because it's not like, typically you may subscribe to certain channels, but they're not really following you, that type of thing, or they're not really your friend or your connection. So hopefully that broader definition will do that. But thank you for asking that. And yes, the slides and the recording will be available to everyone. So thank you for asking that. Okay. And okay, so how do we find great content? Sometimes it's a lot easier to talk about ourselves than it is to talk about other things. Okay, and especially like, when I said, oh, just share third-party content, really interesting articles. Okay, well, where do you find these articles? Like, how do you do this? And how do you find an article that you wouldn't have used before? And how do you keep track of that? And so let me just go through that with you. Sorry, I get thirsty very quickly. Okay. So one of my favorite things to do is a Google time-based search. So let me just show you what I mean by that. Okay, obviously everyone knows how to search on Google. I mean, okay, this is, I'm sorry, I have that as a demo. Okay, so let's say we want to do a search on like Facebook marketing tips. Okay, let's just say, okay, so I press enter. Okay, and obviously you're going to get like a whole bunch of stuff and a million different things. Okay, so now like how many results? 1.6 billion. That's a lot. Okay, so how do you sort through this, and how do you know, how do you do this? So do you see right here it says tools? If you click on tools and then you click on any time, okay, and now let's say, okay, I just want to see articles from the past month. Now I can see only the things, only the articles from the past month. I could also have done the last week. I could do the past year. I could do the past 24 hours. You could do a custom range. So if you, and later on, we're going to be talking about batching your, kind of batching your work. So for example, my posts are written a month in advance. Like I, as much as I love social media, it's not like writing the post is the most fun thing I could ever do in my life. So I rip off the Band-Aid. It's a once a month thing, and using, if I'm only doing it once a month, I just need to search for articles within the last month, and I know they're going to be new. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do. The other thing you could do, actually, let me just go to it straight here. There is a website, and it'll be on the slide too. I'm just going straight to the demo part, is feedly.com. You'll see right up here, feedly.com. Okay, it's a free site. There is a pro version for, I don't know, $6 or $7 a month. I've never needed to use it. Okay, so here's what you do. You basically, with Feedly, I have actually added on the left-hand side, and you'll see, be able to do this and say, I want to, here's some really cool resources that I really like, or or Feedly recommends to me, of sites that always have fresh new articles. So about social media, here are ones about marketing. Here's one about time management I found. Senior living, I was doing research for a client of mine to see what articles were out there. So I'm typically not posting about senior living, but basically I have different topics and then different resources that I found in there. And then you're able to basically curate it in Feedly. So for example, for social media, let's say it's like, okay, I need to find a post about social media. I can click on social media on the left-hand side. And now, okay, well, I say YouTube is not really social media, but here, 9 YouTube trends for your content strategy in 2022. This came out from Sprout Social just 2 hours ago. Okay, so it's curating your favorite resources and your favorite online magazines and your favorite blog sources. Okay, and putting them all together, and you basically organize them in Feedly for yourself. And then you can check in here and then look for an article and then share it. Oh, thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So anyway, that's Feedly. I could do a whole seminar on how to use it, but you'll find it's fairly easy. And you could use the search tool right here to to search for different for different topics and different online sources, or you can put in ones of your own that you like, and then curate it, and you'll see how you do that. Okay. How do you spell that site? Feedly.com. Yes, thank you. As a matter of fact, sorry, because I had, I went off of my PowerPoint just for a moment there. It's right here as well. Okay, so you'll see that. Okay, and it is free. The version I'm just showing you is free. There is a pro version. I don't think you necessarily need it, but if you decide to use it, it has some extra cool little features, and I think it's like $6 or $7 a month. But try the free version, see if you like it. Or worst case scenario, do a Google time-based search. You'll always have the freshest articles within the time frame you want. You could always do that too, and you'll know you'll never repeat articles because it's always going to be the most updated. So consider that too. Feedly works for some people, and for some people they're like, I'd just rather do the Google time-based search. So I'm showing you both. These are just screenshots from Feedly in case I was having like login problems. This is, which I didn't, obviously. Not that you would, I get paranoid sometimes, so I do screenshots sometimes. Okay, so what are some other things you could do to have social media not take control, to take over your life and your too much time? Actually, I'll answer this. Let's see what's in chat before I go to this. Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I enjoy doing this. So thank you. I'm glad you're getting a lot out of it. Okay, so there are the other thing I strongly recommend, if you're not doing it already, is scheduling out your posts in advance. Okay, so in other words, like, how I said that my posts are written a month in advance, they're also loaded up and ready to go on whatever days they're supposed to go out in advance. Okay, so that way I can live my life and not have to go into social media every single time I want to post something, because that gets a little maddening. On occasion, I do go directly into social media, like if there's something kind of immediate and blah, blah, blah. But what's really good about, there are lots of third-party sites that do this, and I'm just listing 2 of them. Okay, but there are plenty out there. I'm listing Buffer first because the free version could be good for like at least 50% of you watching. Okay. And then you might need a paid version if you want to hook up a lot of the different sites. But for example, let's say you decide that you're going to be posting on Facebook and LinkedIn. Okay. Facebook and LinkedIn don't talk to each other. So you can't, Facebook and Instagram talk to each other, but Facebook and LinkedIn don't. So you can go on Buffer and actually say, okay, I want to post, here's a post I want to do. I want this to go on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn on this day. And I want the Instagram post to look like this, just add little hashtags. So you can make little adjustments for the different platforms if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. And it is a best practice if you have time. And then schedule it to go out tomorrow or a few weeks from now or whenever, and choose the time of day. So it really saves a huge amount of time doing that way. So anyway, I wanted to list that one first. There's also Hootsuite, which more people have heard of Hootsuite. They keep on raising their prices. They're now at like $49 a month. I remember back in the day when they were like $10 a month or whatever. But I will tell you the benefit to Hootsuite is they have really strong analytics. They have this listening tool, for like if you want like a dashboard of what everyone's saying about you, it is there. So there is a benefit to it. It just depends on how involved you want to be. If you're just looking for something where you just want to make sure you get posts out there and you already get notifications from your social media sites if people are, commenting or whatever, then you don't necessarily need Hootsuite. And again, there are other versions out there too. There are a ton of versions out there. I'm just listing 2. And this is an example of this was for a dentist, some posts that I had scheduled out in the past. And so these were already written like well in advance, and there was going to be posts that was going to go out on the 11th of June about what causes bad breath. And then on the 14th was going to be about like how to help kids prevent tooth decay. And it's just showing a list. The pictures do end up everything looks normal when it goes on social media. It just doesn't, this is just it listed. So you can kind of see, so you can even see as you're scheduling things, you can even look at the list and see what you're building. I think in some of the pro version of Buffer, you can have other team members join in on it so they can see what you're doing. And it's pretty cool. I don't work for Buffer at all. I should, because I talk about them all the time. Okay, so some quick and effective activities. Let's see. First of all, if you feel you can't possibly be more efficient, I'm going to challenge you on this, and I'm going to hopefully give you some tips that may help you. Okay, so the first one, and this is, I alluded to this earlier, is batching your posts. So treat your posts like cookies. Okay, so you don't just make one individual chocolate chip cookie, you make a whole bunch of them at one time. And because it would just be maddening getting out all the ingredients and mixing everything and making one cookie and baking the one cookie. So, but that's what happens a lot if we're going in and out of social media, and you just want to sit down and with uninterrupted time, schedule it in your calendar, and write a whole bunch of posts, and then get them scheduled out through, Buffer or Hootsuite or on other type of program. And how often you do this depends on your bandwidth. So for example, maybe you just want to block out time once a week. Like if you're posting 3 times a week, then maybe you just want to write 3 posts at a time. But maybe you want to do twice a month or once a month. I'm the once a month kind of gal. Because I just don't like thinking about things. I love social media in many ways for marketing, but there are some things that are tedious. So I try to help myself and everyone to make it less tedious. Okay. Oh, cool. Yes, I do like the analogy. I was happy when I thought of it. And I love chocolate chip cookies, so it helps. Okay, so here's some other things. Right quickly. Now, one trap. Oh, I need more water. Sorry. One trap that I see a lot of people fall into, and I fall into this, especially early on, is that you want to write a huge long post that has all these different ideas, and you want people to take different actions and da 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 da. Well, you have to people aren't going to read that. Like I'm sure you've seen this, like especially on Facebook, you see this a lot. Well, I see it everywhere now. Like where someone will write a super long post. Do you read that post? Even if it's your best friend and they're, just like really putting their heart out there, you might start skimming. Okay. Even if you care about this person, it's really a challenge. When someone's in social media mode, and especially if they're on their phones, 50% of people are on social media on their phones, they're in scroll mode. Okay. They're not as much in stop and read mode. Okay. And I'm not saying people can't, because we can. Okay. It's just, that's not the mentality we have when we're on social media. So it's a lot better if you have a larger concept, break them into smaller posts. Is everyone going to see every single one of the posts? No, but they're going to see some of them, and at least they're going to read. If you have 1 or 2 sentences, the chances that they'll read 1 or 2 sentences and at least get that information and hold on to it is much greater. You also just want to have one call to action. You want to have just one goal for each post, or one call to action. And your goal might be engagement. It might be, click here to join our newsletter. It could be whatever it is, but just only have one goal. If you start making people do different things, it starts, it's just too much. There's a video I'm probably going to be making that it just reminds me of this. So, and bear with me, it's an analogy, and I wish I had a picture of this, but I'm going to be doing a video on this. So there's like this a little tunnel near about a mile away from our home, and it's like a single lane. So 2 people, you have to take turns, and it's very low. It's like maybe, I think, like 8'7". So you can't have like even like a U-Haul truck go through it or anything like that, or else you're going to hit it, and it's a railroad, and there's a railroad above it. So it's like this tiny little tunnel. Only regular cars can go through it, and only one at a time. So, and there have been signs and all this, like 8'7", turn here, last chance to turn out, da, 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 da. Nothing has been working. And this is when people are driving their multi-ton vehicles, and they're still hitting this tunnel. Okay. They're still hitting it. Okay. And so our little town, I live in Newark, Delaware, our little town had to put these like literally big red hanging, like they're balls basically, and so they'll hit your vehicle. And we also there's this huge sign that says, if you're one of these vehicles, stop or kaboom. It literally says stop or kaboom. Okay. And there are these flashing lights. Like my town has recently did this to get people's attention. And this is when we're supposed to be keeping attention. So you don't want subtleties and ask people to do too much stuff in tiny little text. You're asking people too much, because if they need that many warnings to not hit a tunnel, then they need things a lot more simplified in social media posts. I think it's going to come out better when I do a video on this, but I was really excited about it. I wanted to share that. Let's just see what's going on in chat right here. Let's see. This is actually where Twitter can come into play, since it's only 280 characters or less. Yes, it definitely can. And one thing I will say about social media is that it does, well, in the case of Twitter, it forces you to be brief. with other social media sites, you might not be forced to be brief, but I'm hoping that you'll please be brief if you're not already brief. But for your blog, you might have longer articles, right? And yes, for your blog articles, yes, if someone's clicking on a blog article, they're expecting to read something longer. They're in that mode. But when it comes to, but for example, let's say you have a blog article and it's on your website, then your best bet, well, actually there are different ways to do this, but your best bet is to have a short teaser post on social media, 1 or 2 sentences, and a really cool image or graphic that entices people to click to go to your website, to go to the page that has your blog article. Okay. You don't want to put it in, there. And also in the post. And also if you're spending that much time writing something, remember that social media posts are temporary, like they just get replaced all the time. If you have something that large, you want to house it in a more permanent spot. So I hope that helps. Let's see, I've lost there we go. Is it okay to use the same, Tracy asks, is it okay to use the same call to action? I like that you use CTA, by the way. Not everyone knows what that is. That's call to action. Is it okay to use the same call to action on product posts, or should you try to switch it up? I think that you're, without having details on, I don't want to give a blanket statement, but I'm going to give a blanket statement. And that is, you want to have different CTAs. So obviously, if one of the most important things is for people to buy a particular product, that's great, but only some of your posts should be doing that. If you had most of your posts or all of your posts asking people to buy a product, people are going to unfollow or just kind of tune out. It's really better to have a variety of posts. And when you have a variety of posts, that's already going to naturally have, a call to action. And some of these call to actions might be a little bit subtle. So for example, let's say you're sharing a third-party article, and let's go back to the example of, the 5 rooms you should renovate. Let's say you find a good article on Zillow.com on the 5 rooms to renovate before you try selling your home. Okay. So you wouldn't say, you don't have to be so obvious and say, click here to read, you could just say, check out these, check out these, cool tips on, renovating your home, our favorite is tip number 4, something like that. So it doesn't have to be so obvious. So I'm going to say most likely you're not going to have the same call to action, because you're going to have a variety of posts that are going to serve people in different ways. And that's right. You sell the Philly centric apparel. Yes. So, some of it's going to be there, but it could also be, let's say with Philly centric apparel, you have 2 different types of shirts, and you say, hey guys, which one do you like better? You could do something like that. Or let's say there's, you have posts that, people who are wearing your shirts and stuff like that. And it's more of the user generated content kind of stuff. You could do things like that. So there's huge chances for variety. I'm just saying, if it's buy, people don't follow to get a series of advertisements, but it's perfectly fine you still need to sprinkle them in because you're running a business. You have to, but you have to be super careful that it doesn't start becoming too salesy. Social media is social media. It's a way of reaching people by being social. It is not a way of reaching people by being overly salesy, but we still need to, but to your point, Tracy, we have to sneak it in. And yes, Philly slang posts would be awesome. Quotes about fashion. How do you pronounce WATER? Could be, it could be something. I've had to work on mine. I was definitely a water because I grew up in Philly. So let's see. What are some best, and then Carol Lee, I'm sorry, I didn't forget about you, Carol Lee. Okay, so what are some best practices for researching hashtags? Thank you for asking that. You saw that I did have a bullet point about that I didn't get to yet. So let's get to that. So with hashtags, first of all, hashtags are going to be most important on Instagram. Without going into going on my huge soapbox here and explaining every single reason why, but hashtags will hurt you on Facebook more than they help. There are a lot of people who use hashtags on Facebook, and it's because my theory is there's one person who decided to use hashtags, and so other people saw them like, oh, that must be good. They started using it. And then more people started using it, and more people started using it without really knowing what they're doing. Hashtags, study after study has shown that hashtags hurt on Facebook more than they help, because hashtags are like little hiccups. And the purpose, the reason for hashtag, I know this doesn't answer your question, but I feel like I should mention this. The reason for a hashtag is they're keywords such that if someone is looking up a particular topic, they can, in the search bar, they could type in hashtag investments, whatever it is. Okay. And then they see all the posts about investments. Okay. Well, that's fine, but there are certain, every social media platform has their own personality. And on Facebook, people aren't typing in hashtag whatever. They're typing in the name of their, second cousin 5 times removed, and their long lost neighbor, and that their old best friend from high school. That's what they're putting in the search bar. So all that these hashtags do on Facebook posts is add clutter, and brains don't like clutter, and brains decide when someone sees a post that has clutter, they're less likely to even read it or engage. That's why it hurts on Facebook. On Instagram, the best practice is to put all the hashtags at the end anyway. Instagram has been changing its algorithm that they're becoming less relevant, but hashtags still play a role in helping Instagram understand which types of people to deliver your post to. So it still plays a role. And Twitter, and Twitter's kind of, and people definitely do Twitter research as well. So on Twitter, 2 hashtags is actually good. On Instagram, there's a whole debate, but it's the answer is somewhere between 5 and 30, depending on who you talk to. So how do you do the research? Let me give you an overview on that. I actually have like a whole video on it. And it's called like I changed my Instagram hashtag strategy, and I go through the whole process. But essentially what you do is when you're doing a search on Instagram, like, you hit actually, wait a minute. No, wait, actually, I want to keep on my, never mind. I don't want to show you quite. I have an Instagram page open, but I have it set to a certain spot, so I don't want to move that spot. But basically, if you click on the magnifying glass and then you start searching for hashtags, you type in the hashtag you think might work. So, for example, like hashtag Philly apparel. Like for Tracy, it could be hashtag Philly apparel. Okay, and then you see. Okay, and then it'll give you other ideas, and it'll also give you the popularity of those hashtags. And you want to basically, for mostly all Instagram accounts, you want to search for hashtags that have been used somewhere between 10,000 to 200,000 times. If you do hashtags that are insanely popular, like hashtag Philadelphia, that's great, but you're competing against everyone else using hashtag Philadelphia. So you might as well just go for ones that are in use, but not so popular that you don't have a chance. And again, but if you already have like tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, don't follow my advice, then go for the hashtag Philadelphia. For most of us, it's going to be, some of the smaller ones. So look for between the 10 and the 200,000, but look for my video on my YouTube channel that says like, I changed my Instagram hashtag strategy. It's from earlier this year. And there's a picture of me on the image of the video going like, oh, like that, like a typical YouTube thing. I hope that helps. So yes. Okay. So, all right. And just be super careful. Like I just saw, one of the hashtags that was just recommended in chat, be super careful, be sure it's popular enough. If not, is you're just like adding to clutter, basically. Okay. The other thing that you can do, actually between 10, thank you, Bella. No, between 10,000 and 200,000. Between 10,000 and 200,000, not less than 10,000. Now, if it's 9,990, go for it. Okay. So I'm not going to stop you, but you see what I mean? Okay. But if you're the only one using the hashtag, it's not going to help you. Or one of the few people using it. Okay, so some other things you could do are design quickly. Okay, so so one thing I've done is, and I'm not a designer whatsoever, and when I show you what I've done, you're gonna laugh at it, and it may inspire you to definitely do something better than what I do. But create and you can use, a lot of people use Canva, Canva, like canvas without the S, canva.com for creating these things. There are lots of very simple design programs for non-graphic designers. I am not a graphic designer. So where you can create like a background template, and every time you have a particular type of feature on your social media, you use that background. So for example, if you always have a testimonial quote, you use that background and you just change up the words. If you always have like words of wisdom, you have a certain background for that, and then you just change the words. And then you can even, like, if you have a whole bunch of testimonials in your lab, why not go ahead and just create all those graphics, like a year's worth of graphics, and then once a month pull one of them out and use it. So actually I will show you what that looks like. Second. Oh, trying to press escape and it wasn't working. Okay, so okay, so this is my Instagram page right here. So you see this one right here. I've highlighted it. Actually, I'll just click on it right here. Okay, so I'm sorry, and I'm not showing you this as like a subtle like advertisement. It's just, this is a testimonial quote I got from someone, and I need to show it to you for educational purposes. So this background with the quote box and the orange quotes and blah, 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 that was designed in advance using Canva. It's actually just a bunch of rectangles that are like in the background that are tilted in different, that are slanted in different ways, and then just it's all there. Okay, so basically all you have to do with a quote then is you create your quote and then you change up the words, and you do all of this at one time. Pretty cool. The other one, this one is actually really pathetic. Yeah, this is a circle. So in other words, you know, this was like a little tip that I gave, and, you know, save yourself time and stress by planning your posts in advance. Okay, so if I have a tip, it goes in a circle. I'm sure you can do better than this. So, but anyway, hopefully that gives you some ideas. Let me just see what's in chat here. Okay. All things Philly 13. Okay, awesome. Okay, let me get back to this. But yes, batch produce your graphics, batch produce them. Or if you need someone to, you know, if that feels intimidating, you know, go ahead and, you know, ask. There around the corner, there's always someone who loves Canva who can use it very easily. Actually, before I go, let's see. Okay, so these are for Instagrams. Yes, I just showed you Instagram. I just showed you on my desktop version of Instagram. But I will tell you that you can use those graphics, and I'm really, oh, you know, one thing I should mention, if you're going to create a graphic, if you're batch producing them or whatever, use them for all your platforms. You know, put that graphic also on Facebook, also on LinkedIn. If you're using Twitter, you put on Twitter, whatever, you know, like put it on the different sites. Don't just put on one, because, you know, I know that there's a best practice out there, you know, like some social media managers will tell you, oh, you should have completely different content on all your different sites, because it looks so, you know, like, you know, why, you know, it's not right to have the same thing everywhere. It's, you know what, that's assuming there's a false assumption there. And that's the assuming that someone is stalking you so much that they have on this monitor, they're showing your Facebook. Here they're on their phone, they're checking out your Instagram. Here they have LinkedIn, they're checking you on Twitter, and they're checking you. And again, if someone is doing that, that's, you have bigger problems. Okay, that's not the problem. Okay. Don't worry about it. You know, just get the content out there on the sites that make sense for you, using a third-party platform where you can post on multiple sites, and that's it. I just wanted to show you on Instagram because I know I could easily find it. And see, Jerry says, I can suggest thinking about the colorblind community when you create your posts. Maybe want to be inclusive. Oh, that's a really good, Jerry, thank you so much for sharing that. And you know what, that is an area that I need to pay more attention to, and I think we all need to pay more attention to, and I'm really glad that you shared that. So for those of you who are seeing Jerry's suggestion in chat, feel free to copy that link and have that handy and check that out. Thank you very much for that. That is awesome. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so the other thing to do, and I hate to say it, is once in a while you want to boost a post or sponsor a post, whatever the social media site calls it, because organic reach is harder and harder, and once in a while you just need to do that. I will tell you, on LinkedIn, I have not needed to do that. I've had posts go very, very far without I hate to say the word viral because that assumes like millions, and I have never gone to millions, but I've gone to, in the thousands range for things numerous times within the recent past, so but sometimes you just need to put a few dollars towards something so you can reach more of your target audience, and it's okay to do that. That is actually my oh, Jerry, you're not overstepping whatsoever. It's like we're all here to help each other. Seriously. This is my contact information. And let's see. And Garba just put in the form as well. But what I would love to do, we still have a few more minutes, is see what other, what other questions do you have? It could be about, how to batch produce. It could be about the social media sites in general. It could be about certain tools, certain habits you want to have, more about hashtags, whatever it is. I'm very happy to answer that. And again, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, check out the videos there. They're just like all of YouTube, it's free. Well, YouTube has some paid stuff, but my videos are free. So feel free to use it. Do you have a timeline? Okay, so Jerry asks, do you have a timeline when it's best to post, certain days or times? I'm so glad you asked that. Okay, so the best information I've gotten from this is on Facebook, and in their analytics, you can almost see like when your audience is most online. And seriously, it's from about like, it's incredibly consistent from about like 9 o'clock in the morning till about 8 o'clock or so at night on the weekdays. And then on the weekends from about like 8 to 4, 8 to 5, something like that. So I know that you will see blog articles say the best time to post is 3 o'clock on Thursday and stuff like that, but that doesn't factor in your audience. And also maybe 3 o'clock, maybe there are more people who are like active at 3 o'clock on Thursday. I'm just throwing that out there, but they're almost nearly as active at 2 o'clock and at 4 o'clock and at 9 o'clock in the morning. So you don't want to like put all of your eggs in one basket and keep on just hitting the 3 o'clock people on a Thursday when the noon people on Tuesday are nearly just as active. You want to, you spread things out. So when I use my content calendar, or I'm posting in advance, I basically say, okay, this one, I'm going to post in the morning around 9. Okay, this next one, I'll post in the afternoon. This next one will be in the evening. And then I just rotate. But basically during normal waking hours. The only exception is, and I'm not trying to say this to be like snarky, I really mean this, but like if you sell something for insomniacs, then go for the 2 or 3 in the morning. That probably would be a great thing. The mattresses, the, the calming apps, whatever it is. But otherwise I would, do normal waking hours. Okay. And then, do you have book recommendations? And I'll go back to your question, Rachel, in just a second. Do you have book recommendations for books for social marketing? I don't. And the reason, although I will tell you that for those of you who have not heard of Gary V, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure that pretty much everyone has. I think that's how you spell his last name. I know how to say it. It's Gary V. But basically, if you look him up, he has really good concepts about social media that are evergreen, like they're going to last forever. But typically what happens with social media is that it's constantly changing, such that it's hard to, you don't want to have too specific of information in a book, because the moment you publish it, it's already outdated. There's a good friend of mine who is a social media instructor at University of Delaware, and she says every year she has to change 50% of her curriculum. So, but I will say Gary V is really good. He is kind of liberal with the curse words. So if you have a weak stomach with that, I get it. I'm kind of that way. So you may want to hold back, but his ideas are really, really good. And then thank you, Cynthia. And let me get back to Rachel's. Okay. Can you talk more about good call to action practices? Okay. So, having one call to action, I already talked about, also, you want to make sure that it's above the fold. So you know how when you read posts, how maybe the first two or three lines at most will show, and then it's ... more. Don't hide the call to action at the end. Make sure that it's towards the beginning if you can. Some other things I like to do. First of all, if you keep your post brief, you'll be able to make sure that your call to action is seen. Sometimes I also like to have like, one of those pointy fingers that goes to a link. You can certainly do something like that. And make sure if you're doing a call to action that it's answering a pain point. So in other words, if you have the answer to something, make sure that teenagers driving you crazy, download our free ebook on how to manage your stress. I'm not talking at all from experience. But anyway, so make sure that it matches, and I hope that helps. Let's see. Tracy asks, wow, I have a lot of questions. Let me see. Okay, we have a couple more minutes, and then I have to hand it back. So let me see if I can answer everything I possibly can. Should alt text be included in every post? Alt text is very helpful. Oh, wait. Actually, Bella asks, sorry, let me go back. I'm sorry. Where do you store the batches you create? So there are different ways to do this depending on how you want to do your workflow. I've done it where I've written my post directly into the third-party tool like Buffer. Okay. But there are other times that I have written it in Microsoft Word, and then I just kind of go back to it and edit it and stuff like that. So, and you can edit posts when they're in Buffer too, but so you can store them in different ways. And by the way, once your posts go out, like even when you go to Buffer, you can see what you've already posted. There's it's all there. So it's really going to depend on your workflow. You might want to, if you want to have someone help you with your social media, you might want to put things in some type of word processing document so that, you can go back with, or like Google Docs or, stuff like that, and do some editing there before it gets loaded into, into a third-party platform. Should alt text be included in every post? It is a good practice, but if you can. Let's see. And then let's see. Thank you. You guys are so nice. I really appreciate this. And you guys asked really, really good questions. When you're engaged, that's when things get really fun, and you made that really fun for me. So thank you too. And Garba's coming back. That means it's my time to wrap things up. So.
Yeah. Please, before we wrap it up, before you give your last statement, I just want to, just as you rightly said a few minutes ago, just go straight to our attendees. I did post a 30-second survey about today's webinar. I just posted it again for the second time. Remember, we at Temple SPDC, we always cherish your feedbacks, even as it helps us in improving the services we provide to you guys at a no cost. So kindly take 30 seconds of your time and help us to fill it out. Brooke, you can continue. Look at 2 minutes.
Okay. Oh, thank
But I
you,
can see
Regina.
it's just like a thank you,
Yes.
and the rest.
And I love seeing some familiar, well, I should say familiar faces, familiar names.
Of course.
A couple of people I do know what they look like because I've spoken with them. So, but yeah, it's, and for those of you who are new, I hope you'll be able to, join me for future presentations too. So I do them regularly, and I'm really thankful that the SBDC has me.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, just want to use this opportunity to thank you for a wonderful presentation. Thank you for keeping it a day with us. For those of you at work, those of you at home working remotely, thank you for your time. And once again, to my wonderful presenter, Brooke, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I love the way everything flowed. It was more or less like an interactive section. A lot of questions came in, and I must attest to it that you were able to nail everything up. Of course, before we go, I would also want to use this opportunity to thank my wonderful SPDC colleague. Remember, without them, we wouldn't have been here, and this webinar wouldn't have come into existence. Thank you guys for your wonderful cooperation, for your wonderful support. And I think we will just cut it off for the day. Thank you guys, and you enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.